And welcome everybody to another Soul Vibes. It's already number 20 in the episodes 20 in this series of in this particular series called Soul Vibes. And for those that are new, my name is Alexis Sersha, and welcome. I hope that you're going to enjoy this transmission, which is basically a co-creation. We come together in the etheric realms, and that's the image and the feeling that I have is that we're sitting around the round table. So basically, we just come together, we co-create this safe space, and we're sitting at a round table, having a coffee, having a tea, having whatever that you wish to have, depending on the time of the day that it is. If you're watching this live or perhaps joining a bit later, and still you are here in the live, be part of this co-creation we create and gather together on a monthly basis. And so in this series, we of course explore, but the name gives it away, we explore all the different things to do with soul. So basically, as awakened human being, and for those that are still just going through that full-on awakening, as perhaps we've done this in so many different ways, in so many lifetimes, to now be here in this place where our soul connection, the presence that we feel, for many of us, after all of the work that we've done and allowed and cleared out and transformed and transmuted, we now can actually feel, to whatever extent that each one of us feels, this presence, this soul connection. And not that that there is some kind of like a defined, definite barrier between the human and the soul, and yet at the same time that also is, both are true at the same time, because the human self is part of this whole greater being that perhaps we call soul or higher self, or even if we go further, if we expand further into the the pure I am, that I am presence, the consciousness. So there aren't any clear barriers, and yet at the same time there also are. And so this presence, we actually, as human beings, once we connect, we can feel it to a degree, to more or less degree. And our relationship, our dance keeps changing with this presence. And so for me personally, sometimes I feel this presence more tangible, sometimes less. Sometimes it has a name. Sometimes it's just a feeling. But whatever it is, however that I perceive it or dance with, whether during the day or week by week, month by month, it keeps changing, it keeps developing, and it keeps having all these new different nuances and abilities, and all sorts of new perceptions, new insights, and new of all of the different things. But the main thing, one of the main things, is that this support, this being able to draw this inner nurturance, this inner light of being from the deep well within me, deep. And so in this way, we are, let's say, if we look at it from the point of view of a normal human being, one that perhaps still is in separation, that doesn't perceive soul in this clear way, we have tapped and are continually tapping into what is in humanity known as the unknown, beyond the veil, into those regions and realms that for many of the humanities, perhaps it is just that wishful thinking. They wish it would be true, or something that they take on faith. And some people, let's say the atheists, believe that it's not true, because perhaps even when certain things like they do in every human life happen, they just dismiss it or explain it away, or all of these kind of things. And so, but for us, once we are connected, it is this one of the most beneficial things, let's say from the human perspective, is this ability to be continually supported, to be continually guided, to be continually, to be continually inspired, loved, from this deep well of self. And so in this way, we are very, very drastically different from, let's say, what I call a normal human being, but whatever that means. But when I say normal human being, I mean someone disconnected, because they would be the majority of humanity at this time. That's why I say normal. Not that we're not normal. I'm fine with being not normal. Normal is mediocre in my book. Anyway, so back to the soul. So the humanity of the ages of all of the different human systems. Let's say you have Renaissance and Enlightenment and modernism and postmodernism, and all of these things. Basically, there are all these different systems that grapple with this question of who we are and what we're doing here. And so, and also being, taking responsibility for self as an adult, making decisions, having to make choices all the time. And that is why for many people, they don't want to grow up. So they sort of end up being part of certain followings, and they may have, like the presidential campaign, and they give sort of the responsibility over to this other person, or perhaps they're following like let's say a musician or a film star or something like this. Anything to not have to sort of to be able to give this responsibility for things away, not having to take the responsibility for one's life, because this taking responsibility, even though we in our circles talk about it a lot, and it's kind of becomes like an ordinary thing, but from a normal human perspective, it is huge. Because imagine, like, remember back to the days when you didn't feel connected in any way to the soul. How hard, how bewildering, how scary, how full of fear, then life is, when you can't, when you think that every choice that you have, every choice that you can make can be either a wrong or a right decision. What if you keep making the wrong one and stuff like that? So I'm saying all of this, just to sort of to appreciate the differences in what we are doing and what we are allowing, and in how much easier it is for one who is connected, who is reaching into that space beyond, into that space that is in the unknown realm, according to the normal humans, and how blessed this life is. And yet at the same time, there are so many other, as things that arise from being connected, because that markedly separates you from most other people. And so you can become, for many people experience, and I've experienced that too, it's almost like you become a target, especially at certain beginning stages. It's like, there's so many synchronicities that instead of working for you, seem to work against you, because it is like when you wake up in that way, and then you continually transform, and you continually transform certain things, and you continually step out of certain groupings, of certain shared fantasies, of certain shared stories of humanity, because there are stories within stories. Energy and other people, consciously or subconsciously, actually feel that, and it's kind of like you stir when you step out, or you break that chain for yourself. You stir all of the energy dynamics within that particular story. And then it's like the energies or other people, they can turn against you and try to sabotage, a lot of things that you're doing. All of a sudden you get calls from people, or for example, something like you can manifest in a way. For example, let's say you sit down and you want to do some benching, and all of a sudden, every time, like on a cue, something noisy starts to happen. Someone just at that moment starts mowing grass just next to you, or certain people turn up from nowhere and they make noise and interruptions, and they perhaps interrupt your energy. And this is all also part of this whole being a souled being, because every time and everywhere that you go, you kind of stirring things all the time, and so you can be a target for some people. Perhaps it is a job that all of a sudden, you become a target there. Or it's not only that you awaken and you realize, wow, there's so many unhealthy energies, let's say at a job or in a relationship and in all of these things. But so it can, that's one part, but another part is also that, yes, you do become a target. And so in this way, it also is important to learn how to navigate these things, because as one who is going through all of these things, and also then, once you've integrated to a certain degree, let's say, or 50% or over 50% or whatever that percentage may be, and you start to really live this soul-filled being, soul-filled being that you are, soul-filled life, you still keep stirring certain things. So, for example, I know that a lot of people, let's say about 2-3 months ago, maybe around March, April, it was many people were experiencing full-on attacks, me too, that all of a sudden just certain people just boom, boom, kept on turning, and it's almost like people are possessed by a demon, when they turn in this way. And that it's not normal, because it's not a reaction to anything you've said, anything you've done, but it's kind of like this negative force, or whatever one I can call it, this keeps fighting back and fighting against. And yet at the same time, I feel, and I am, and I experience that I'm protected throughout this. Some things are not pleasant, and yet I am protected almost like with this invisible bubble from all of the things. And so I can navigate through and extricate myself out of all sorts of things like that. But it does, it does happen. It is an interesting thing living as a souled being, amidst people that are unawakened. There also is, there are kind of, I know that a lot of the people, they don't talk about these, especially, in certain circles, but there are spirit possessions almost, like this negative sucking energy spirit entities that can attach to a person through trauma, through points of trauma. Let's say you go through childhood and the trauma opens the person, opens energetically person up for these entities to attach, and then they continue to perpetuate that trauma self, which person that is in trauma and has not healed it, they're very sort of like engrossed into self, very small, very focused into this. They're not expanding, they're not changing, they're not flying, they're not safe, you know, so it's a very different kind of energy dynamic. And these beings or energies, whatever it is, they attach and they continue to try to prevent a person from, firstly, they're sucking on the energy, and secondly, they try to prevent a person from being able to realize how they can help themselves or seek help, or even, you know, improve. Or perhaps they go into, you know, when they grow up, they go into narcissistic relationships to continue this kind of trauma. All sorts of these kind of things happen. And sometimes people wonder, well, why can't I move on? Why can't I move on? Or we look at someone, why can't they move on? And it's because perhaps they still have these kind of things attached into their energy field. I too have experienced something like this, like maybe early 30s, when what I thought at that time was that, you know, Yeshua or Jesus, at that time I didn't know Yeshua, that started appearing to me at night. A being of light started appearing to me at night. And I thought, let's say that was Yeshua. And now I know that it was just my own presence, my soul presence, that started appearing this as a being of light. And yet just this presence was able to, and just the light presence made these suckers, whatever it was, entities, to just be gone. And every time, and that was happening for about 3 months at that time, when, you know, at night it was so intense, this work, and I had no idea what was going on, but I kind of just went with it. And every time this entity unattached, like the memories of the trauma when it happened just flew through me, like they flowed through me, and I knew exactly when they would attach. And that horrible feeling of depression or darkness, or, you know, because I used to be very traumatized, uh, and that feeling of there's something so deeply wrong with me, that, you know, that feeling was always present with me. And it was through these kind of entities that perpetuated these kind of feelings. And so quite a few, they were gone just by the presence of this light. They just couldn't stand it. And that's when I, you know, I was able to really start to breathe and to fill my lungs, and to really, I don't know, it's kind of like that was one sort of awakening as well. So there are so many things that are going on in our environment in this way and with people. And one of the biggest things in the last few months for me has been to really realize, you know, like to go out from that, which was kind of like a naivety about what other people are. And just I thought, you know, like this modern version of, oh, everyone's good, and everyone's just trying to do the best, and all of these kind of things. It's kind of like even in this, I'm coming into reality from that fantasy of, you know, imposing my this kind of naive views on people, to just realizing and seeing people as they are. And people are all sorts of kind of people, you know. And because I feel supported by my soul, I feel safety, I feel safe, I'm also now able to allow myself to really see people for who they are and how they are, and not in judgment, but more like in a realistic assessment. And there are quite, you know, a number of people that really are not good. They're not good in a sense that, you know, they, whether consciously or unconsciously, it doesn't matter, because the result is the same. They really are out to use, to manipulate, to not do good for you. And whether that comes from their own wound or trauma, narcissism, whatever, or any of these things, it matters not. But it pays to really be aware and able to see, because in the old days of spirituality, the New Age, it was very popular to sort of look at people and say, oh, and still I hear some people say that, oh, I just see the best in people, and I just refuse to look at them in any different way. I just see the best in people. So people would say, and then the second thing that they say with that is, oh, but people, they disappoint me a lot, because they let me down. Why does that happen? It's a pattern, because this person is imposing their own fantasy onto another person. Another person hasn't read the rule book of this first person, and so they just behave the way they behave. And yet this first person thinking, oh, I'm just going to see the best in everyone, is not really realistically looking at other people the way they are, but they're just creating this fantasy of how people should be, and they're making these fantasy ideas on how other people are, rather than actually being physical and present with people the way they really are, and so perhaps probably, for this very reason, because unless they feel supported from inside, unless they feel safety from the inside, they don't, it's really scary to be in a world where you see so many very ill people, and when you wake up and you really see that energy feeding and all of that kind of stuff, that is quite a shock to get over. And it keeps kind of going deeper and deeper in this way, or rather, clearer and clearer, as I'm able to sort of feel more safety within myself, and feel more supported with my own soul. Then I can actually see for the world the way it is, because I feel this complete safety within me. So then I have no, how can I say, no need to project, no, what I would like people to be like. I can just see people the way they are, the whole spectrum, of all of the things. And this really is, the earth is like this, isn't it? Like one can experience a whole spectrum of things, not just the black and white, but all of the different colors, and they all dance within each one of us. And how we work with that, it makes a big difference. And so the presence of a soul really, I don't even have all of the words. It would take too long to be explaining, to sort of try to describe the effect of this presence of consciousness has on all of these things, on this whole spectrum of experience that as a human being I can have, and then the spectrum of experience that I can allow other people to be who they are, without me needing to either impose or try to rescue or try to enforce another person to behave and be a certain way. It's like, even in this, like in all other things, this is what it means, becoming more and more embodied, because it means that then everything else is much more embodied, and also other people are much more real and embodied, because all of those veils that used to have, that try to keep me safe in a world where I didn't feel connected, can now also keep falling away. And so these last few months and last few weeks and the last few days, especially, again, we've been, bombarded with huge energies, huge solar flare after solar flare, gamma rays, all sorts of things, the codes, the blueprints being downloaded. And all of this, can be overwhelming in a sense for the body, for some people's bodies, and also, for the insights that you get, and also for every time there is an insight of something, your energy changes, and again, you are a different person than I was yesterday or a week ago. So it's just this continual dynamic change. I had an interesting experience actually just yesterday, because I went to I go for walks into nature a lot. I go on my road trips. I drive a lot. It's for me in a day to drive one way, 3 hours. I can drive easily 3 hours one way to do a good walk. So listen to music on the way, stop and do all of those beautiful road trip things. Anyway, so I went to a walk that I used to do when I was doing Blueprints of the New a few years ago. And I was really intensely working with Michael, with the presence of Michael. And that's where I would go for that beautiful walk. And we would commune and communicate, and I would get all these great, all the ideas to then implement and then put into action, and what the topics for the webinars and all sorts of kind of things like that. So I used to go a lot to this particular walk into this particular forest, but then last 2 years I was going to a different kind of forest in a different location. So yesterday I went back to this one, and in this walk, it's a national park, and in this walk there is also a hidden secret pathway that I found, that is a ranger's path, and I used to just crossed into it. There's like a hidden way, and it was just this beautiful, gorgeous path that was, that had this gorgeous green grass, always small, and the way the light was shining and playing through the trees. It was just such a magical place, and I never sort of met any other people there. So it was just gorgeous, and I used to sit there and just soak it all in, listen to the birds and stuff. And so yesterday, of course, I go there and I go to this secret path, and in the last 2 years, who knows what happens, and all these rain that we had, it was just completely overgrown, and not just overgrown, but there here in the tropics, there are so many plants that are actually quite dangerous. And like some, you have stinging nettles that sting, and there were fields of stinging nettles. So I had to sort of find my way through the stinging nettles and through all of these really dangerous plants with hooks, with stings, with all sorts of things. There is a plant that stings and you feel it for quite a few months, like this intense nerve pain. And I kind of sort of made my way through it, and I had to laugh and giggle at Michael. And I thought, so Michael, is this all your shadow parts grown up in this place, And I saw two snakes. I can feel the snake's presence, and then I see them. So I feel quite safe, navigating. It was a bit annoying because I get caught and stuff like that, but it wasn't a big deal, made through giggling through this sort of jungle. But it made me realize, and all of the other things that, on my road trips I've seen, so much has changed in the last couple of years, in the forest and the way the nature works and stuff. And I realized that I can't even go for these walks or trips as in like as a continuation of who I used to be, like thinking, oh, I've been coming here for 10 years or something like that, and this is just the next stage of that. But it's kind of like I have to now go there, go to these places as if I'm there for the first time, because I am completely new. They have completely changed, those places and spaces also. And it also made me a little bit sad for all of the, history, because if if you go on these kind of trips and walks and you have big insights and transformations and experiences in certain places and certain trees, next time you walk through that space, there is that energy still there, and I can feel when the memories come back, so I am very deeply, deeply connected to the land, to the trees, to the locations in this way. Even like if I'm driving down the road and like I go through certain places on the road, the memory of what happened there, or the realization or insights that I had there as I drive through that particular spot just comes to me, so it's kind of like we drop and we leave all of these sense of ourselves in the landscape. But this time I realized that, wow, it's required of me now to just come in. And it's like I've started anew. It's like as if I've never seen these places before, and they've never seen me. And we start again anew. They're creating and co-creating new experiences in these locations, while at the same time, which is also true, because being a multidimensional being, I also have memories there. So it's quite a bizarre experience in this way, but it also has to do with just accepting this radical acceptance of this ever-changing world, rather than holding on and trying to have the sameness of things all the time, or like, oh, a place should be the same as it was 10 years ago or something like that. Well, if you live in the tropics, that's never, because things grow so quickly and change so quickly. And even if I don't go to a certain place a year, it changes a lot. But at these times, it changes even more. The changes are even more and more rapid and noticeable. So I also forgot to say, I had an interesting mishap just before I started today's episode. My normal light blew up. So I don't know, the lighting is a little bit different today. So I apologize if it's a bit odd, but hopefully my new light is going to come by next webinar. But I had to just quickly put things together so that the show wouldn't start, it wouldn't be late. Anyway, so that was just a side thing, because I forgot to mention it when we started. So yeah, okay, so that's one of those new things that I sort of have been realizing, just the newness of everything. So another thing, it has to do back with what I said about being able to just be with things as they are, accepting them as they are, all of those kind of veils falling away, the shared fantasies, that protected all of these kind of projections of everyone's just good and all of that kind of stuff. I see the best in people and all of that. Those kind of bad things actually fall off, they really have no value anymore. And even though they perhaps helped in the past, some of the things now, they can actually be quite, damaging to yourself. Like, so it really, each one of us has to really reevaluate all of the belief systems that we've held, that we've cherished, that were important to us, and how how we see self and how we see other people, how we see the modern society, it's like for me recently, I've realized, just how many of of the things that I used to sort of believe, I was just given, that actually do not support my society, but actually work against it. And yet, it was like a battle against my society that I live in. And yet I realized, wow, but this is not actually appropriate anymore, because it's again another battle, and it's about letting it go, integrating the opposite, and just having it be whole. And another thing to do with society is just that, to realize that the ideal of who a person is has been raised so high by society, that that perfectionism, that only that picture can be achieved only by really, how can I explain this? For example, let's say, by things being completely upside down, you know, they're not actually right way up. So for example, one of the things would be, how, let's say, we call what we call food, for example, you know and when you go to a shop, depending on which country you live, because some countries are still very much natural food and organic food. And this is the problem when you say, okay, food, the when I say food, what in many, let's say, in Western societies, is actually manufactured fake food, like a highly processed food. And then if I want to sort of specify a good food, I have to add something to it. I have to add word organic food, but it should actually be the other way around. So this is what it's actually upside down, calling food things that are actually not food, but they're sweetened cardboard, or whatever highly processed food it is, should actually have certain additives that shouldn't just be called food. It should be fake food, highly processed food, food with pesticides. And what is organic food should just be called food. I wouldn't have to add organic words to it, you see. So these are the kind of things that I realized, wow, there is so much upside down in society. Or for example, let's say if you look at, let's say, I don't know, fashion industry, or entertainment industry, or any kind of stuff like that. Like, you have a lot of stuff on the internet or Instagram, all of these fitness followers and all of that kind of stuff. And it's great to be able to do fitness at home while watching these things, and perhaps if you're inspired. But when you actually then see what a person is doing when they're off the screen to sort of maintain that the way their body looks, or the way they look, or whatever, it's actually very unhealthy. So the image on the screen that they're trying to portray is healthy, but in reality, all of the things that they do to have that image, they're really very unhealthy. So these are the kind of really there's so many of these kind of upside down things, and within society, that is actually so sneaky in a way that it's part of your own psyche, and it keeps kind of that critical inner eye, and the critical inner perfectionism that is actually not able to sustain, not able to ever reach that perfectionism, but it keeps that voice that continually pulls you, down, or unappreciates you, and puts you into all of these kind of almost like anxiety, that because you're kind of all the time battling against yourself, and you're putting yourself down because subconsciously you have this image installed that is it's completely unreachable by nobody, by not by anybody, and it's completely upside down and topsy-turvy. And so for these are the kind of inner battles that can still rage within a person. And it's only one day you wake up and you realize, wow, this is kind of what I'm doing. And so these energies that we've been having lately have been targeting all of these kind of things within you that are still keeping you, stuck in certain ways. They're perhaps keeping you from that flow, self-love, acceptance in this way. And so for many, it kind of can almost seem like certain things have come back to visit again and revisit. And you say, wow, but I thought I've dealt with that. And again, it's just those onion layers. And so, it's a reminder to not look at things that are coming in this way as, oh no, not again, in this kind of fashion, but to look at it as an opportunity to resolve it, once and for all, to let it go, to look at, okay, so it's triggering me again, something's triggering me again, so how can I do things different? There's still, if something's triggering, there's still something there. How can I do these differently? How can I behave differently? What other different choices can I make within this situation? And it's not easy because, there are so many parts that can be so automatically ready to take over in that moment when you're triggered, and just go on that old, story or words that they say, the feelings, and it just goes round and round. And in that moment to realize, wow, actually, no, I can, because I notice it, I can make a different kind of choice. I can make a different kind of decision. So let me do something different now, feel different or accept. Or if you're not sure what to do in that moment, just stop and feel self-love. That never gets old, and it never is wasted, because every time you feel self-love, there's opening for the insight from your soul to come in, for new understanding, for new potential, new opportunity to come in. So yes, dear friends, there's loads and loads happening. And so at the same time, it is this reminder again, like I said at the beginning, is just how wonderful, how blessed it is to feel the presence in whatever way that you feel this presence of your own self, your greater self, your expanded self. In these times of so much happening in the world, of such drastic changes, of people being on the brink of, either going more into their downhill, into anxiety, depression, and all sorts of this way, or, you choose differently. And for some, again, it's become important, not only discernment in this way, but that it's one of very, very huge thing to be able to let people go if they choose to go downhill, to just let them. And can be heartbreaking if it's someone close to you, if it's someone within your family. These are those kind of moments and choices that are huge on a human level, for you to be able to do, to let a loved one, and you can still love them, but to realize that you have to let them go and turn away, turn their back on them basically, and you choose to keep going and walking this path of consciousness, of heart, of self-love. And I know that recently, you know, many people, there have been a lot of people saying, please let them. It is so important to let them, and not only just the closest, perhaps, you know, some people that are closest to us, but to also, you know, humanity at large, to let them, let people experience, you know, not to keep transforming things on their behalf, to basically enable humanity to keep going down the track, because they don't experience the fruits of their labor, the results of their choices of work or not work and all of that, because there are certain people that keep transforming this. And now is no more that time. That time is to let them. And it is also, with all of these energies, important to, you know, gather your own energies close to yourself, to resolve all of these things for yourself, within yourself, to feel okay with that, and to feel okay because, you know, other people really, they too are okay, because they too are those soul beings. And whenever it's their time, is their time, and that is between them and their soul. It is not other people's business. And you know what the choices that they make or not make. And at the same time, it is each one of us that is responsible for our own choices that we make. And it is now really important to walk that path, to say goodbye. And it doesn't mean that you have to even let that person not see that person. You know, they may still live in your house, or they may be your spouse, your partner, your child, your parent, but it is energetically, this is energetically to let them on a very, very deep level, to let them. And you can't, you know, congregate your own energies into your own life and solve your own issues. Take care of your own things. Take care of things that perhaps you've been, you know, neglecting. You know, maybe to do with health. Maybe I know, you know, a lady that, you know, just went to the dentist first time in decades, and she needed to go. You know, those kind of things. Like, some people, because we've been so involved in changing the world and creating the new energy and all of that, it is about being okay to what feels very selfish, you know, to, oh wow, just letting them. You mean I can just let them? Yeah, let them. And then when they see and experience the results of what they're choosing, because you're no longer transforming, or you're no longer carrying their burdens, then finally they may actually be ready to say, no more, I want to change. And then you're there and you can show them how. But it is that impetus is from them, and then the change can happen because they're ready and willing. You see, so yeah, there's huge things happening on this way. And whenever I make these kind of choices, because me too, I have, you know, family members, all sorts of very complex relationship issues, and people that are not on, you know, within a close family, that are not on this path, that are maybe on a very self-destructive path. I know how heartbreaking that has been. And what a huge journey it's been to continually, layer by layer, to be able to let what is theirs be theirs and let what is mine be mine. And yet, it feels so good because people have themselves, are able to live life and perhaps even well within those circumstances without me. And for in the old days, that was quite shocking because I myself needed to be needed in that way, needed so that co dependent relationship was on both sides, on theirs and on mine, and we fitted perfectly until I kept on waking up and kept on waking up and saying no more, and all of that kind of stuff. But these things are huge to experience in your heart, to let go, to do this radical acceptance, and to just come to to terms and to peace with yourself, with your journey, with our journeys, with who we are. That unfortunately for us it means that perhaps we don't fit with so many places and spaces of the normal humanity, and yet the payoffs, this closeness with your soul, this presence, these feelings, the artistry, the creativity, the inspiration of this life. There is nothing within the general humanity that even closely on any compares to any of the to these. So will they ever come to this or not? I have no idea. And we're talking about other people because there are many awakening, but it's not such, again, compared to the humanity, it's not such huge numbers. So it keeps life very, very interesting indeed, so, but yeah, keep allowing, keep loving, keep laughing, keep singing, dancing, whatever it is that you do, each one, because we have created that the earth has changed to such huge a degree that regardless of what people are feeling, like we're living on different kind of planets. We really are. So whatever they are experiencing, other people, I feel myself inside like anointed, and I know that I've said that before. I feel myself anointed in sacred oil. And so, regardless of what happens or whether, other people maybe have not so good reactions or they target, or it doesn't happen very often. I can sort of navigate around it, but there was, as I said, that time in March or April when it was really pronounced. But whatever happens, I feel myself anointed, and I can resolve these things so quickly with panache, with insights, with with decisive change within how I can handle it, how I come to terms with it, what sense I make out of it, how I can move on, how I can let it flow, let it go, how I can, even let's say if it's still, I mean, that day when it is perhaps stressful, I can still do other things that are enjoyable. It is that it's this and that. And then I just resolve it in myself. I flow with it. And then I step out of it energetically. And then next time, perhaps I meet those people, they've moved on, or I've moved on, and they're still doing that drama, but someone else, because that's who they are at this at this time. And I can just sit back in neutral, and I just was like, oh, this is an interesting daytime TV series that I'm watching. It's almost comical, not comical in a way that I would feel bad, that I wish them something bad to happen, that I wish them drama. I don't wish anybody anything in this way. I wish every single being in the world would live in joy and happiness. That is my ultimate wish. But I can't change other people, and I don't actually feel bad anymore if someone next to me, let's say I'm somewhere out there, and someone next to me is experiencing whatever they're experiencing, and it doesn't dampen my own joy. And these kind of things, like even a couple of decades ago or something, there was no way I would be able to experience this, because I'll feel guilt and shame and riddled with all of these kind of emotions and whatever have you, that would not allow me to have those kind of healthy boundaries. And other people may still, people that are caught in those kind of ideologies, which are actually enmeshed, and they're enmeshed and not clear, and they don't have clear boundaries, can still come, and if they see you, or if you try to explain or something, they will call you bad and selfish and all sorts of things, because it can look like that from the outside, but there is no other way to sort of move, allow the new world, allow the new energies, if one is still enmeshed in the old stuff. Because all of these new energies are free to anyone, but it needs work. And we've done the work. That's all it needs. Doesn't need, it's available to anyone of any creed or age, or wherever they are on earth, but it does require work. And so that feeling of almost kind of lingering guilt, that still, that also, for feeling joyful, especially in these times when there's so much turmoil, or even that can be let go of until it's just no longer there, until you can just mind your own business in this way, enjoy life, live life. And of course, if anyone wants help, you offer help, but if they don't, they don't. It's not like we have to go out and beg people to sort of take these on, so that they can actually too transform those painful, hurtful patterns that they're living in within. And so, we walk this earth in this incredibly anointed way that is keeping us safe, keeping us almost impenetrable to these, I don't know, stabbings or energetic knife stabbings or backstabbing or whatever. All of these kind of things I can experience, I notice it, I see it, and yet it has absolutely no effect, or at least not, I can sort of feel the prick, but at least not in any long-term kind of way. But I see that it happens, and I see the person, and I see their patterns, and I see through their energy. So because I can now look at things clearly and calmly, and not even with judgment, but with incredible discernment, And also then I can absolutely choose. Do I spend time with that person? Do I not spend time with that person? You know, this is what is needed for the decisiveness, so that, you know, you keep yourself clear with the bound and your boundaries clear. And it feels really, really good to be able to do this, you know, after all the crazy beliefs of new age and all these misinformed ideas that we've had as a humanity and still have, you know, from centuries and centuries, because we're always trying to work out how to resolve. You know, if you kind of read some ancient texts and old texts and stuff, you know, there's been always similar issues like this, you know. You've got people that are well off, people that are in poverty, you know, people in all sorts of different kind of situations. How do you resolve society? What kind of government or governance should we live in or have? Is it democratic? Is it this or that? You know, all of these kind of things are interesting to ponder. And also you know, with the presence, you get all this bigger picture and insights into all of this, because in a very different way, and you can see things in a very different way and step out of them also, because you realize, wow, this is no longer mine. So much of what is happening within humanity, within this realm, is really no longer mine, because as any time or every time that you resolve these oppositions and battles within you step out of them, and you resolve certain ideas and things within you, and you step out of them, and you step out, and you step out. And so it's a very interesting way to be so fully present and embodied in this world, so clear to be able to see not only others but yourself as well, you know, and your own pattern, my own pattern, so that I can change them and accept them, float them, allow them, transform, whatever. But and at the same time to be so not so be so much part of this physical world, and at the same time be so much not part, so out of it as well. You know, that saying of be part of it. I forget now how it goes exactly. Be part of it, but oh, I forgot. You know, that saying, when you're so fully embodied, and yet you're actually not part of the whole crazy drama, of enmeshed drama that is playing out on Earth at these times. And so I believe we've come to the end of this soul vibe. So I do thank each and everyone for your presence, for your participation. I will send out the links to the video tomorrow, because it's getting quite late here. And I hope that you've enjoyed yourself, and I do send you each many, many blessings. And yeah, enjoy your life, explore, play, dance with, you know, not just dance in a physical body, but dance with life, with artful, you know, with art, being an artist of life, pretty much, and dance with it. So this is my wish for each and every one. And so until next time, thank you very much.